Casey.
And Lauren.
And this is...
Magnum B.I, the podcast where we dive deep into a new topic each week.
As per usual, we're going to add a little bit of comedy, a little bit of banter, and...
The Addams Family.
Du-du-du-du.
We're back!
We're back!
Oh my god.
Season 2.
It literally doesn't feel real.
No.
Oh my god, we've literally been talking about this for 2 months!
I've missed this a lot. Like, truly, genuinely, I've missed being in a room talking about spooky things with you.
I know! It's been so good, and I'm so happy to be back, and we're on a new vibe.
Well, on a new vibe. We got a new... If you're watching on the YouTube and or TikTok, we got a new backdrop. Mm-hmm. We got microphones.
We do.
We got a new theme for this season.
Yeah, we do.
And we're also dressed like Morticia and Gomez Addams, but that's beside the point.
I'm Gomez and he's Morticia.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
The people listening on Spotify are like, oh, Casey's in drag.
Slay. No, but yes, if you listen to the end of last season, you'll know that we are transitioning from true crime into just investigational work, doing research, doing a little social justice, etc. Something a little bit more lighthearted.
Yeah.
Because we take so often, we can't deal with that right now. So
there were some episodes last season that were just simply
too much.
Lot. Yeah.
Yeah, like Eileen. That one
Yeah.
really got me where it shouldn't have.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to be doing some more lighthearted stuff, some more fun topics, and seeing what we get into. Season 2 is going to be really good, guys. We have a bunch of really good topics picked out. And hopefully by the time you're listening to this next week, better audio equipment.
Yes. We got microphones. Do we have cables?
No.
Yeah.
We have the microphones. We tried to place an order for the right cables on Spotify, and
Amazon.
Absolutely, yep, on Amazon. And we've never done this before, so
No.
we didn't know what to order. So we got the wrong cables, but we have everything else squared away.
Yes.
So hopefully next time there will be better audio.
I'm excited for that.
We've literally been talking about this since the first episode of season 1.
Yes.
You're like, we should get microphones.
Literally every week we would text each other and be like, we should get mics. And the other one would be like, yeah.
Nothing would happen. But I'm glad we waited until we were like fully sure we were committed to this, because if we like suddenly started hating each other season 1, this would be really awkward.
Oh my god, could you imagine?
Yeah, that would suck.
If we just had a bunch of wires.
A bunch of wires and nothing to plug it into.
No, if that ain't a metaphor.
Literally.
So, Lauren.
Yeah.
What are we going to be talking about this week?
So this week, as a fun little transition from true crime into investigative podcasting, we've decided that we're going to be doing a deep dive into Hysteria Halloween edition.
Ooh.
Let's get into it.
Okay. It's so cool to be back.
I know.
Anyway. Okay. Anyway. So, yeah, this week we're going to be talking a little bit about some mass hysteria events historically. Mm-hmm. I think it's going to be exciting. So, first, I want to talk a little bit about hysteria that is shared between groups of people. Shared psychosis, or shared delusional disorder, is also known as folie à deux, which is French.
Okay.
It's French for a folly of two or a madness shared by two.
Oui, oui.
Bonjour.
Bonsoir, bitch. With this mustache, it's really serving.
I keep looking at myself in the viewfinder because,
We look really good.
You look, like, hot as hell. Anyway, so folie à deux is a rare syndrome in which two or more people experience the same patterns of delusional thought.
Okay.
It is most common among people who live in very close proximity and or are socially isolated or physically isolated from the outside world.
Oh, okay.
So it happens a lot in really close-knit families that are really far removed from any sort of like external social circles. It happens a lot with really close siblings. Mm-hmm. There have been a few historic cases of twins experiencing shared delusion disorder.
Oh.
Yeah.
My immediate first thought was season 1, Salem.
Yeah.
Isolated colonial community in the middle of rural Massachusetts. Witches, bitch.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you are very much isolated from anybody outside of that community. Mm-hmm. And there's going to be one very explicit nod to Salem in a little bit.
Yay! I can't wait.
So according to the DSM-5, there...
You're literally coming from my brand.
According to the DSM-5, there are 3 criteria which must be met in order to be diagnosed with shared delusional disorder. 1, they must have a delusion that develops in the context of a close relationship with an individual who already has an established delusion.
Ooh.
So you have to be close with someone who has an already, like, developed delusion.
And then it's almost like a virus. It
Yeah.
spreads.
Yes.
That's fucking cool.
Yeah. 2, the delusion must be very similar or even identical to the one already established.
Right.
So it's not like someone has, like, this very vague delusional thought pattern and you're, like, kind of similar, but, like, not really. It's like you have, like, a shared thought.
Yeah.
And 3, the delusion cannot be better explained by any other psychological disorder, mood disorder with psychological features, a direct result of physiological effects of substance abuse, or any general medical condition.
Oh, that's interesting. So it can't be spurred by, like, a crazy amount of drugs.
No.
Ooh,
No.
interesting.
So, like, if, like, 3 people took shrooms and all, like, saw the same thing and, like, were delusional about the same thing, yeah, I guess they're having a shared delusion, but it's not, like, fully proper according to the DSM.
Interesting. So, like, all the people that take ayahuasca and see snakes, similar thing, but it's not fully
Yeah.
Interesting.
Somebody, you know who this is.
I sure do.
I'm not gonna say it. Somebody, like, very close to me did ayahuasca in Costa Rica, and I never want to do that.
No, it scares the shit out of me. I am scared of psychedelics to begin with, but ayahuasca is one that I think you would have to strap me down to a table to get me to take, because that scares the hell out of me.
No, I would never ever do that. They they, like, are convinced to this day that they saw God, and they're, like, not a spiritual person. They're not a religious person. They're not even, like, an extremely critical, like, thinker. But they know that they saw God.
That is insane.
Yeah.
They saw the snakes. They saw God.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
Jeez.
In a lot of cases, one person experiences a delusion, and this person is an authority figure over others. So then these others develop the delusion.
Right.
So that kind of leads us into our case.
Yes, it does.
So I want to preface by saying 2 things. 1, I am not diagnosing anyone. I bring that up, the folie à deux shared delusion disorder, because it is the most common theory in this case. But no one's ever been diagnosed with that, nor am I diagnosing anyone with that.
Okay.
B, 2.
Two.
I am omitting the last name of the people involved in this case. If you look up any detail of this case, you will find their last name. I just feel sort of like, if you remember our Tall Hot Blonde episode in season 1.
Yes.
That girl didn't do anything wrong, and she's still alive. So I still, for that, and same thing with this family, they didn't do anything wrong, and they're all still alive.
Absolutely.
So I don't feel like I should mention their real last name. For ethical reasons.
Yeah,
anyway.
amen. HIPAA.
Not that you won't find it. Can I get a HIPAA?
Can I get a HIPAA?
So, our story starts in Sylvan, which is a small town in Victoria, Australia, about 25 miles from Melbourne.
And we're gonna live down under. Where men go and women thunder. You know the song?
It took me like 3 beats to know what the song was. But
I'm not on key. I never said I was on key.
having a stroke
I'm having an
in her
episode.
Morticia Addams costume.
The medics find me in full drag.
With a ring light on.
Yeah, literally. They're like, they were televising this? She could get help.
Your hands clutched around the microphone without a cable. Anyway.
Shared delusion. Shared delusion. I'm also recovering from a head cold, so if it sounds like I have a smoker's cough, mind your business.
No, we're also like really physically unwell right now.
This has been a hell of a day.
But we'll have it out for Halloween.
Amen.
So Sylvan is known for its its farming, community, and pick-it-yourself orchards.
Cute.
That's like a big thing in the town. Every spring since 1954, Sylvan has hosted a annual tulip festival.
Aww.
In which nearly 1 million tulips are grown and 100,000 tourists each year attend.
That's so cute.
I know. But otherwise, it is a very small, isolated farming town.
Makes sense.
So the Johnson family, which is what we're calling them, owned and operated a successful earth-moving business and gooseberry farm in the town of Sylvan. Who doesn't love a gooseberry farm?
I love a gooseberry.
Have you ever had a gooseberry?
No, I don't know what that
is. I don't really either.
You know, in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, when they're like, oh, it tastes of snozberries.
Yeah.
That's what it makes me think of. It doesn't sound real.
No, but it's from the land down under.
Excellent.
So there are 5 members of the Johnson family.
Yep.
51-year-old Mark Johnson, who is the patriarch, I guess.
Yep.
53-year-old Jacoba Johnson.
Yep.
29-year-old Rihanna. 25-year-old Mitchell, who's the only son. And 22-year-old Ella.
Right.
All 3 children, who are, again, between the ages of 29 and 22, lived at home and worked on the farm 7 days a week.
Oh.
So they are a very, very close-knit family of grown people.
Oh my god, I didn't realize they were all so old.
Yeah.
And they didn't leave.
No. Which, that's not inherently, nefarious, I don't think, but...
It does say a lot about what is to come, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So all reports depict the Johnson family as a hardworking, very tightly knit family. Mark and Jacoba, the parents, were apparently happily married and mentally stable. So the story starts very recently, in August of 2016.
Oh, wow.
This was, recent. For a few weeks, Mark and Jacoba had been showing some really unusual signs of anxiety and paranoia. And at least one of them was convinced that someone was out to get them, to kill their family, and take their money.
Whoa.
Which was really uncharacteristic of them.
I was gonna say, can you imagine, your parents are, normal one minute, and then they're coming?
No.
What?
No, I'd be freaked out.
Yeah, I would lose my fucking mind.
And especially when you, live with your parents, and you're really close, and you work with them 7 days a week, and you live in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, obviously, you're gonna be oh, mother knows best.
Yeah.
Father knows best.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say otherwise, obviously.
So on the 30th of August, 2016, friends and extended family members contacted the police because they hadn't heard from the Johnson family in a while.
Ooh.
The police arrived at the family farm to find that the house was empty.
Oh.
The farmhouse was in a state of disarray, as if someone had been, frantically looking throughout the house for something.
Oh.
There were piles of business documents and financial statements left out in the open.
What?
But all of the family's passports, licenses, and cell phones had been left in the house.
Ooh, that's interesting.
So no one was there, but everything was left behind.
Yeah, all of these important documents, anything you would need to actually leave, has disappeared.
Yep.
That's spooky. It's giving Roanoke.
It's giving Roanoke,
it's
right?
Giving Roanoke.
Where everything is there, but the people aren't there.
Oh,
it's the people were just sucked up.
Eerie. That is so eerie. You know what that reminds me of? Liminal spaces.
And I don't want to talk about it. This is going to be a fun season.
Yeah, this is going to be a good one. That's going to be a topic for a later episode, I think.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about a liminal space.
They freak me out.
Hoo-hoo-hoo.
All of the cars were also left in the driveway.
Ooh.
With the doors left open and the keys in the ignition.
Oh, no. That's spooky. That's like they were natched. They were literally natched.
Yeah. So it looks like a weird kidnapping situation.
Yeah,
which I have
written.
Except there was one car missing. 22-year-old Ella's SUV.
Okay, they took the stuff.
They took the stuff.
They took
Ella's stuff.
They took my stuff.
So the day before, on Monday, August 29th, all family members piled in Ella's SUV and hit the highway for a tech-free, cash-only, off-the-grid road trip.
I don't like that.
Police went through the house, including all of the financial documents which had been left out in the open. It didn't appear that the Johnson family had any sort of outstanding debts. There were no drugs in the house, and there were no signs of anyone being involved in any sort of religious organization or cult or anything like that. It seemingly seemed like a normal farming family that just up and left.
I was gonna say, like, religious panic would be my first guess.
Yeah.
Because that's the unfortunate reality of the world we live in. It's usually like everything is coming to an end, like the world is ending, blah blah blah. We have to get out of here. Yeah. So.
And it's actually, I think that factoid or like that hypothesis would be very much supported by the fact that all of their belongings were left behind.
Exactly.
Like if they had just up and left, but they'd taken their passports and their cards and their phones, it would be like, okay, weird, but like they're fine.
Yeah, literally.
But for all of that to be left behind is like, what's up?
That's concerning.
So no one, again, could understand why, A, they would be paranoid that someone was out to kill them, which they'd been telling their friends and family, and B, why they would flee in the first place.
Yeah.
So on the first night, the Johnson family drove 8.5 hours north to the town of Bathurst. Somewhere along the road to Bathurst, the family looked in the back seat and saw their son Mitchell, who was on his cell phone. They made Mitchell throw his cell phone out the car window.
Whoa.
Because they were so paranoid that they were being tracked.
By who? What?
The next day, on Tuesday the 30th, in Bathurst, Mitchell leaves the family.
Okay.
The rest of the family drove from Bathurst to the Jenolan Caves, which is about a 50-mile drive. At the Jenolan Caves, Ella and Rihanna, the two daughters, also left the family. Ella and Rihanna didn't, again, have any credit cards or identification or anything. So to get away from their family, they stole a car.
This is a girl boss move. I'm gonna say it.
Hot wiring.
Literally.
Ella and Rihanna drove from the Jenolan Caves to Goulburn, which is about another 2 hours south, and they reported their parents missing to the police.
Whoa.
So this is the point when the media is like, what's happening?
Yeah, what the fuck?
Because it's really bizarre that that the family went on this whole road trip, but then it's extra bizarre that the kids separated from the family in like wildly different places, and the daughters reported their parents missing, and they stole a car, and etc. etc.
Yeah, it sounds like mommy and daddy have gone off the deep end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a huge manhunt that goes underway to find the family and to uncover the answer to all of these questions.
Right.
Australian media is like totally captivated by this story, and it becomes huge Australian news.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, are you kidding? Oh my god.
After reporting their parents missing, Ella and Rihanna split up from each other.
Okay.
So Ella wanted to go home and feed the horses and make sure that they were okay.
Slay.
Now, why Rihanna didn't just join her sister and go home and check on the horses, no one really knows. But Rihanna climbed into the back of a Ford F-150, a stranger's Ford F-150.
What? Why?
I don't know.
Why?
No one really knows. The owner of this Ford F-150 drove for about an hour until he heard a kick in the trunk. He pulled over and he found Rihanna hiding in there.
What the hell?
This is a 20, like,
how old is she?
2-year-old woman.
She's our age?
I think. Yeah, this is Rihanna. No, Rihanna's the 29-year-old. This is almost a 30-year-old.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
What?
So also imagine like, and then so he opens the trunk. He finds her. She's dazed and confused. She doesn't know her name or where she is or why she hid in the trunk in the first place.
Oh wow.
Imagine being this guy and having to call the police and be like, "Hey, there's a woman in my trunk. I didn't do it."
It looks bad.
Yeah.
It does look bad.
It is bad, but it's not my bad.
Yeah, she just put herself there.
And she's dazed and confused.
Was she drugged?
No. Well, no.
Not, whoa.
So he goes to the police, this guy goes to the police, and Rihanna's taken to a psychiatric hospital where she remained for several months.
Whoa.
Ella gets home on the night of Tuesday the 30th, the daughter who wanted to go check on the horses. And Mitchell comes home the next day. So Mitchell and Ella do an interview outside of their family home. Now at this point, the parents are still missing, but all of the kids are accounted for. Ella and Mitchell are at home, and Rihanna's in the psychiatric ward.
Slay.
Now, I don't really know what Mitchell and Ella are like normally, but their disposition in this interview is like weird. Like they both just seem really scattered and really paranoid, And especially Ella, she, like, looks really, like, glazed, and she's, like, blankly looking at her brother. Like, they just seem like... I don't think that they were on drugs. I'm not accusing them of being on drugs. I genuinely don't think they were, but they look like they were sedated.
That's awful.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So the interviewer asks, can you tell us how you came to actually get in the car on that Monday and start off on the trip? It's just quite a confusing story.
A fair question. A great question.
And Ella says, it is very confusing. I still feel confused. I think our state of minds wasn't in the best place. And yeah, I don't know. And Mitchell says, it's hard to explain. And Ella says, there isn't one reason for it. It's bizarre.
I think their parents drugged them. Like, this is my growing theory.
Well, let's hear about the parents, though.
Okay!
So, they also, at the end of this interview, make an emotional plea for the parents to come home. Because, again, at this point, the kids are all accounted for, but the parents are still missing.
Weren't they in, like, the cave?
Well, they're kind of all over the map.
Okay.
So, the interview doesn't clear anything up. Australia's more confused than ever.
Yeah.
The manhunt continues.
Right.
Meanwhile, Mark and Jacoba drive 15 hours to Wangaratta. I went to high school with her.
Slay.
Now, I'm not an expert on Australian geography. I don't expect anyone to be. If you look at the path they took, they go like miles from home, and then miles back toward home, and then miles away from home, and then north, and then south, and then east, and then west, and
it just doesn't make sense.
It's not like they're going to one destination. They are just like all over the place. Mm-hmm. But in Wangaratta, Mark and Jacoba separate as well. Jacoba uses public transportation to travel another 220 miles away from home, and in the town of Yass, Y-A-S-S,
Yes!
in the town of Yan, Jacoba tries to book a motel.
Okay.
But she's acting really strange, so she draws the attention of the people around her, and someone takes her to a hospital.
Good.
At the hospital, the staff recognize her, and they call the police. Jacoba was taken to the same psychiatric ward as her daughter, Rihanna, and she also stayed there for several months.
Whoa.
So now Mark is the only one that's still out and about, the father.
Mark?
While on the road, he tailgates a young couple so closely that his headlights weren't even visible to the drivers. So,
no,
like,
that's my worst nightmare.
No.
I cannot stand when people tailgate me.
They look in their rear view and they're like, I just see a windshield.
I hate that. That's fucking spooky.
So the couple's like, okay, we're gonna let this guy go by. So they pull over.
Yeah.
Mark pulls over behind them.
Yeah.
He gets out of the car. He starts running toward them.
No.
And then he stops in the middle of the road. He turns around and he runs into the woods.
No, he's literally possessed. Are you kidding me? That's the devil.
So the young couple calls the police. They're like, we don't know what's going on, but something's going on.
There's a man out here, and he's on drugs, and he's scary. I don't like it very much.
He was following us really close, but that's just the beginning of it.
You're not even doing Australian accent.
So after he runs into the wood, this man was following us.
He's in the woods.
He's in the woods. The police come and they try to find Mark in the woods. They can't. Mark left his car, Ella's SUV, in the middle of the road, unlocked with the keys in the ignition.
No, I don't like that.
Finally, on Saturday, the 3rd of September, 6 days after their whole road trip started, Mark is found wandering the streets of Wangaratta. Mark is taken into custody. He's held there for 5 hours, and then he's released to his brother, who was a police officer. Now, I think it's interesting how Jacoba and Rihanna spend months in a psychiatric hospital, and Mark is released to his piggy brother after 5 hours.
Literally.
But, I don't know. So Mark is, like, agitated and pissed off, and there are tons of photos of him, like, giving the finger to the media. Like, the paparazzi reporters are trying to take his photo, and he's like, fuck you.
Fuck you.
The police were never able to identify any credible threat made against the Johnson family, nor did the family ever come forward and offer any kind of solid explanation of what happened. charges were brought against Ella and Rihanna for the theft of the motor vehicle, but both charges were dropped. And Mark later apologized for, quote, the hurt and concern caused by these events. He paid respect to the community resources that helped his family. Since then, the Johnson family has taken down their website for the farm, as well as any contact information available online. A Sylvan investigator called it the most bizarre case that they had seen in their 30 years working there. And as far as anyone knows, they still live in the farmhouse. They're back to normal, but no one's ever explained why this happened.
What?
Folie à deux.
That's it?
Yeah.
Oh my god!
So they went on this 6-day, tech-free, nonsensical road trip, and no, they don't even know why. Ella's like, I don't know.
That's fucking crazy.
And it seems like Mitchell, who is the son that had to get his phone thrown out the window, was the only one who all along was like, I don't know why we're doing this, what's going on. Because he brought his phone to begin with. And I think, my theory, is that, like I said, it's usually an authority figure who has a delusion and then shares it to the people, quote-unquote, beneath him. And I think their father, Mark, was an authority figure. He was a business owner. He was the father. And his wife and his daughters were going to buy into his delusion. But I think his son, who has sort of more, like, autonomy, I guess, being a man, you know, to get, like, feminist critical about it, was not going to be as, like, susceptible to the delusion.
That's so interesting.
So, yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
The Johnson family really went at it.
The Johnson family, they were missing.
That's fucking crazy.
Mate.
Thanks, Casey.
Yeah. I'm pumped to hear yours.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
We're going to talk about Beatlemania. Okay. Beatlemania. We've already talked about quite a few different hysterias. We talked about witch hunts in Salem, the Satanic Panic, both from last season, the Johnson family from this episode, each sprang seemingly from nowhere, and through what can only be described as a perfect storm, boiled over into a disaster of nightmarish proportions. Fear and hysteria are like thunder and lightning. Where one strikes, another is hardly far behind.
No way!
We're getting started!
Oh my god!
Season 2!
I love when you tell stories.
However, there exists a different kind of hysteria. One more passionate and deeply hungry that lurks in the bowels of the human mind and can propel the sufferer into bouts of extreme fanaticism and rampant emotionality. I am, of course, talking about mania! Bow, bow, bow. Cue the theatrics. Hysteria and mania.
I just want a little behind the scenes. Lauren has ridiculous fake nails on, and she's having a lot of trouble operating her MacBook.
My head cold, my nails, everything is against me today. Hysteria and mania are like a good pair of eyebrows. Sisters, but not twins.
I need you to stop with the metaphors. I need this to stop.
I'm on fire. Hysteria is generally defined as emotional excitability without known cause, usually resulting in panicked or negative emotions. Mania operates in the same sphere and also strikes without warning. However, where hysteria is generally the forebearer of intense, inexplicable negative emotions, mania results in intense, almost excessive desire, energy, and passion. And while there aren't many cases or cases, I should say, of mass mania, like there are cases of mass hysteria, there is one in particular I felt we could dive a little deeper into.
Please.
Beatlemania. Defined by the Encyclopedia Britannica.
Oh, God. Merriam-Webster says courage is.
Merriam-Webster says Beatlemania was the name given to the popular frenzy surrounding the Beatles after the band's first appearance on British TV in 1963. When the Beatles appeared on American TV in 1964, Beatlemania also erupted in the United States. Mass media created the conditions for the collective frenzy that was Beatlemania. Like, it's fucking crazy. And, of course, unless you've been living under a rock, you know who the Beatles are. But for that one collective listener that does live under a rock, the Beatles are the iconic British quartet that's given birth to some of the most popular pieces of contemporary media outside of Lana Del Rey, Britney Spears, and Mozart.
I think Lana's a little bigger.
Bigger than Jesus.
Sorry.
Bigger than the Beatles. As of the date of this recording, they comfortably sit atop of Wikipedia's charts for best-selling artists of all time, with an astonishing 600 million recorded sales of albums, outpacing Elvis and Michael Jackson by more than 100 million units apiece.
Wow.
Even now, more than 5 decades after the band's last studio album, they hold the record for most number one albums on the UK album charts with 15 awards. They have the most number one hits on the US Billboard Hot 100 chart with 20, and the most singles sold in the UK at 21.9 million units.
Wow.
5 decades later.
Yeah, it's wild.
It's hard to think of an accolade that John, Paul, George, and Ringo haven't received, but to top it off, the band kickstarted a wave of fandom hysteria that swept the entirety of the United Kingdom, the United States, and began a new British invasion, the likes of which the world had never seen. Think of a girl you knew in middle school that made British boys her entire personality. You know the type.
Yeah. I'm friends with some of them to this day.
Like, I'm thinking back to 2010 when Keep Calm and Carry On merch was fucking everywhere. Yeah. Directioners ruled the world, and they sought to light up the world like nobody else. I remember girls crying in the hallway once the band broke up, and the subsequent backlash at Zayn once he decided to start his solo career. Nowadays, the 2022 girlies have Harry Styles. Thank God for that. He makes good music. But let's consider this insanity times 1 million, and we begin to understand the fervent fanaticism that enveloped the entire world when the Beatles made their debut.
Wow.
Like, I can't even begin to imagine how insane that was. While many young people of previous generations had their heroes, the baby boomers created a stir through their intense fanaticism directed towards the Beatles. Like, can you imagine, like, all the, like, okay boomer memes, except it's just them being Beatles fans?
Yeah, with, like, ugly, like, straight bangs and bobs.
Okay boomer.
I feel like, and I might be, like, taking one of your points, but I feel like at least when we were in middle school and One Direction was like the thing, social media existed.
Yeah.
So like you could be obsessed with One Direction, but there were also a plethora of other fandoms and things for you to be into. Versus when the boomers were the same age, there were like 3 channels on TV.
Yep.
So when the Beatles were on TV, like there was if you were watching TV, there was a third of a chance that you were watching the Beatles.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And like, something else about the internet that's changed like fandom culture as a whole is that you can be quietly obsessed with something. Like you can be secretly into all kinds of things and have your own little niche community that nobody knows about. But like with the Beatles, it's everywhere. Yeah. And you don't have like your little chat room on Reddit to go to talk about it. It's your friends, it's your family, it's anyone who will fucking listen.
Yeah.
It's an echo chamber, except it's everywhere.
Oh my God.
Can you imagine?
Oh.
Okay, so, while the group had been relatively successful for a few years before their infamous debut in the States, they garnered widespread fame and even disdain for their appearance on British TV in 1963. Much like Elvis, a leading factor in the Beatles' meteoric rise to fame had to do with controversy. Like, for example, John Lennon's comments about Jesus incited the Christian conservatives. Everybody knows the John Lennon quote where he's like, "We're bigger than Jesus." That was a big deal. Paul McCartney's acid-dropping escapades alienated the morality police, and the vulgarity of their lyrics caused a stir amongst the deeply conservative social attitudes of the mainstream 60s. So, like, everybody loves to think the 60s were peace and love, but that was the counterculture.
Yeah.
Then we have, like, the super straight-laced conservative Christians that were like, what do you mean you want to hold my hand?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Which
is crazy. I mean, we could do an entire episode specifically on, like, John Lennon's, like, abusive tendencies towards women.
Yeah.
Like, there's 1,000,001 song lyrics about him talking about how he wants to, like, hit women. And even one of his singles used the N-word with a hard R in the title.
Ooh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I found that out during my research, and I was like, what?
Ew.
It was called Women Are the N-Word of the World. And
what?
Because he was trying to make a commentary on how, like, women are second-class citizens by comparing it to racism.
Okay, we could do that a lot more
exactly.
thoughtfully.
It's, like, so heavy-handed and minimizing. It was, like, universally panned. It's his worst-selling single ever. And for good reason. It's a bad comparison to make, and it's poorly done.
Ew. I'll say to this day, a lot of, like, toxic indie men are very reminiscent of John Lennon.
Oh, we could do an entire episode on indie men.
Yeah.
Like, the pearl-wearing fake feminists that, like, will fully abuse you and be like, but I have feelings.
Yeah. No, yeah.
Which is so crazy.
But tell me they don't all, like, listen to John Lennon.
No, they do, and they all have his shitty little glasses.
Yeah.
And they think that they're doing something.
Yeah.
Which, unfortunately, they get away with a lot of shit. Much to consider. Much to consider. Okay, so all of that, realistically, to the Beatlemaniacs didn't matter. The young women of the 1960s wanted the Beatles, and by God, they would have them. When the Beatles began their first tour in the United States, throngs of screaming fans would arrive at each location the boys visited, selling out tickets, overwhelming the venues, and smashing box office records at each benchmark. It was a cultural phenomenon the likes of which the States had never seen. Not only were the Beatles taking over daytime TV, radio stations, movie theaters, and concert halls, but their ideas, fashion sense, and lingo were slowly permeating into American tween culture as well. So, like, think about stan culture on Twitter. Twitter doesn't exist. It's everywhere. You are walking down the street and you see, like, 6 boys that all look exactly like the Beatles. They all have their haircuts. They're all using British political ideology slang. All the girls are in fan clubs. They've taped pictures to their walls. They've adopted their euphemisms. It doesn't stop. Mm-hmm. The rampant fanaticism, it created a worldwide cultural homogeneity centered around 4 average-looking white boys before Twitter stan culture was a thing. Like, it's crazy. One particular article I read, because I did go to JSTOR for this episode.
No, you did not.
Yes, I did. I used a college database. Recounted the Beatles' first appearance in Minnesota in 1965. So let me set the scene. Upon arrival to the St. Louis International Airport, the Beatles are greeted with 4,000 screaming fans at the tarmac. As Ringo steps out of the plane, the screams of the teenage girls begin to drown out the jet engines of their private jet. Whoa. And once all 4 descended the stairs, the fence that had previously been holding back the rabid fangirls began to bend until a pole snapped, and 4 of them broke through the throng of police that had been hired as security detail.
Are you serious?
I'm dead ass.
Whoa.
They were fucking rabid.
Wow.
Like, respectfully, because I respect women. They were rabid.
The power of teenage girls.
Literally. One of the teens broke through the line of policemen and grabbed onto Ringo Starr's jacket. She began to scream, "I touched Ringo! I touched Ringo!" before being dragged away. The pandemonium was unlike anything that had ever touched Minneapolis. The security coordinator... I
can imagine.
Like...
though I don't know if that's like a very high bar.
Minneapolis, Minnesota said, "What?" But the security coordinator for the police force, Captain John Pixley, went on to say, "Personally, I'd rather be dumped in a river full of piranha fish than face the teens."
Yeah, me too.
Like, can you... like, they're just
scared,
clawing at the fence, like, help me.
I touched Ringo.
I touched Ringo.
Oh my God.
Yeah. In the clinical sense, manic episodes, and manic disorders, for that matter, are a difficult situation to find oneself in. While the person experiencing the manic episode may experience feelings of euphoria and heightened energy levels, the lows following the emotional highs of the experience are difficult to navigate. They can be jarring at best and terrifying at worst, not only for the person experiencing the symptoms, but for friends and family as well. The troubling part of Beatlemania is that there was no way to scientifically define what caused everything to spiral out of control. For whatever reason, the combination of gray suits, shaggy hair, and British accents were enough to send nearly every teenage girl within listening distance of the band into a frenzy. And obviously, things died down after, was it John that was assassinated?
Yeah, I think he was the first one to die.
Yeah, so he was assassinated and the band broke up. And I'm pretty sure Ringo and Paul are still around. I'm not sure about George. But whatever it was that had all of them in their little clutches in 1960 turned women into raving hormonal monsters desperate to touch the skin of their beloved stars. It changed the entire cultural landscape of the 60s, rocked the sensibilities of every sane person observing from the outside in. No such band craze has ever come close. What was in the water back in 1960? Who's to say? Maybe we should all just let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be.
Whisper words of wisdom.
Let it be.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's Beatlemania.
Okay, want to hear a factoid?
Please.
The day, I think this says something about my, like, intergenerational trauma. The day that they came to America for the first time is my mom's date of birth.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Like, the day she was, like, born on this earth.
Out the womb?
Out the womb.
Out the womb with the Beatles.
Shelley came right as they came.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Also, can I give a hot take?
Yeah.
Do you like the Beatles? I don't like the Beatles.
Yeah. I think some of their music is really good. I used to listen to it a lot growing up, but I don't think it was, like, worth the hype. You know?
I don't
like,
get it.
I still don't understand, like I said, why 4 average-looking white boys did this to everybody.
Yeah.
But, like, go figure, I guess.
Teenage girls.
Amen to
the
that.
The power of a teenage girl. Well, this was fun.
It's so good to be back,
it's
Casey.
It's so good.
Oh my god, I can't believe it. We're finally back for season 2!
Season 2.
I know.
I really enjoyed learning about Beatlemania.
I loved learning about the Johnson family.
The Johnson family.
If my nails didn't keep getting in the way, I'd be snapping more enthusiastically.
I've been snapping for both of us.
Yep, but it is 11 o'clock. I'm ready to get out of drag. And I'm also really excited to hear what your case for next week is going to be.
Well, my case for next week is going to be something that I don't really have the words for how obsessed with it I am and why I am so obsessed with it. You'll see. It's so good. We're going to be talking about the hit TV show, which is also in a way an investigative journalism show, To Catch a Predator.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Just a little taste if you don't know what To Catch a Predator is. It is a show from the early 2000s that is now over.
Yep.
In which a man named Chris Hansen.
Woo, woo,
woo! And a team of, like, online watchdogs would go into chat rooms, pretend to be 12, 13, 14-year-old children.
Yep.
And lure, essentially, men into coming to a sting house and trying to have sex with them.
Yep.
Chris Hansen would then be there, would interrogate these men, and chaos ensued.
Yep.
And next week I'm going to be talking about the show, the premise, the problems, some of the important and crazy cases, and yeah.
I literally cannot wait. The only thing I know about To Catch a Predator is, like, I used to watch, like, Chris Hansen compilations on YouTube of, like, best To Catch a Predator gotcha moments. Yeah. And the show itself, in its concept, is so early 2000s. It just screams, like, kitchen nightmares, man versus food. But there's, like, a really good premise and spark behind it.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to hear what you have to say about it.
I'm really pumped to talk about it. And just really quick, speaking of early 2000s, there are a lot of, like, instances in the show that are just, like, so deeply early 2000s. Like, the people pretending to be the 12-year-old will be like, ROFL, that's so funny. Or, like, they use, like, MySpace a lot to catch these guys. Like, it's very much a sign of the time.
Oh my god.
I'm excited to talk about it. I'm pumped to talk about it.
It's gonna be so good.
Yeah.
I cannot wait. Thank you guys for tuning back in. This has been so fun. It's been 2 months in the making.
Mm-hmm.
I know we said we were going to be back September. We're back on Halloween. And we're going to keep a consistent upload schedule for the foreseeable future.
Yes, we are.
Fingers crossed.
I think we were good. Like, great. In our own defense, I think we took, like, 1 week off last season.
Yeah. for finals.
We did
great.
We did great.
Now we just have to keep that up.
Yes.
That's the hard part.
Yes.
But I have a really good feeling about what's to come, and I'm really excited to be back with you.
Me too, Lauren.
Ah.
Thank you for tuning in.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. If you want any more Magnum B.I, you can follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. We have an email if you guys want to send us anything, if you have any thoughts, opinions, or memories of To Catch a Predator. It would be actually really fun to do like a listener write-in section.
That would be really fun, actually.
If you have anything to add, feel free to shoot us an email at magnumbi.gmail.com.
I think it's magnumbi@pod@gmail.com.
Slay, we'll fix that.
It'll be in the
It's in the link tree.
Yeah.
So feel free to shoot us an email. We'll read your message next episode.
And we are so glad to be together doing this. Thank you so much for listening.
And
Magnum
B.I.
Bye. We got low.
Get right back up.